good to have you back. We were talking about a subject last week, which is when I say it's topical. I mean that's just putting it lightly. It's everywhere. It's been discussed in TV, newspapers, social media, at work, and families, whatever. And we're not talking about Trump. We're talking about AI, right?
Yeah.
We're going to continue from last week because we opened up a few little things about how the benefits of AI. Do people think that it's taking them down the dark alley? Are there any real benefits? What are the drawbacks? What are the negatives? But there was a question I asked you guys last week, right? And I said to you guys, I'll tell you what it was. Basically, what it was to ask Nick, Mike, and you, Mr. Wynn, ask ChatGPT to tell you something about yourselves which you don't know, right? So once again, first of all, I'd be a bit rude. Good to see you guys, Nick. Good to see you, Michael. Good to see you, Winnie.
Good to see you, sir.
A pleasure.
So, with that, please, guys, just briefly, what did it tell you about yourselves? Nick, start off.
It said, get off the podcast from these three guys. They're dangerous. So,
See, mine said the same. Mine said the same.
I like it.
basically, it obviously goes, it was saying it took information from previous interactions with it. And
Yeah,
absolutely.
the one thing that it pointed out, which it highlighted, it was a memorable, it's kind of reminded me of something. And that is, I genuinely struggle with small talk. I struggle with that. I'm unable to, if somebody says to me, if I'm outside and somebody says to me, oh, it's hot. I'm in the same bloody weather as you. I know it's hot. I don't understand why you're even telling me that. So I struggle with that surface level stuff. It said that. It said about how I like to be analytical. But the thing is, it seemed, here's my criticism of it. It seemed generic in the sense that there was no challenges there. It was very complimentary. Now, I'm waiting for like you three would say at times, Nick, you got an issue here. You need to fix up on this. I'm waiting for that element of it. And it didn't come with that. But it certainly didn't it didn't over compliment me. And I wouldn't say it got it wrong, because the way that it kind of said about, I like to turn the tables. So I like to put myself in other people's shoes. Whatever question people have got, I like to flip that on his head. And pardon the pun, but I like the devil's advocate kind of scenario. I like that. So it pointed that out. And that was quite like, oh, okay. It's interesting that it's picked up that from questions that I've asked. That's it, really. That's it.
Okay, that's interesting. Michael.
Mine was quite similar. I think it did use the intelligence that I'd previously pumped into it to kind of build a profile of me. So it kind of just spoke about me as a person who has an entrepreneurial spirit. And I think that's because I have put certain things, like I'm doing a bit of a side hustle with the Airbnb stuff. I've looked into some other things. I put some stuff about the podcast when we were, So I think, no, it was good. It was good, but there was no blue sky thinking for me. It didn't really critique my personality. Really, I didn't get in. Maybe it's how I framed the question, but it seemed to kind of tell me stuff that I kind of already knew.
Okay, all right. Interesting.
Yeah,
Winnie.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Michael and Nick to a certain degree. But I'm going to read what it kind of said with regards to myself. And basically it says, all right, let's go a bit meta here. And then it says, you might not realize how much subtle influence your daily choices have on others. Some things as small as the way you phrase things or the timing of messages might shift someone's mood more than you think. You're probably shaping people's days quietly without even knowing it. And then it prompted me, do I want to go deeper? And I said, yeah. So it went on to talk about other things. I mean, I could read it all, but it's long-winded. But then it also then prompted me again, do I want to go deeper into the conversation? So I said, yeah. And then it started to get a bit more generic on basically, it tried to predict my star sign, for instance, on the basis that I was born in September, but it got it wrong because I'm on the latter end of September. But it also kind of started to ask me questions with the intention to kind of me putting down questions and giving me scenarios of how I could deal with the questions that I was putting forward. So I to a certain degree, I found it quite helpful because there was some other stuff. I can't go into detail right now because it was quite a lot of information that it kind of put forward. But yeah, it's quite surprising that it has information on myself, and it's surprising that it's got information on you guys as well. And is it interesting? I'd like to go. I'd like to go a little bit deeper to see what more I could kind of unravel, but it'd probably take a little bit more time. And I only started looking at it today. So, yeah, I mean, there was some pros there. There was some and some cons that I thought about it. I did think it was being, a little bit kind of trying to dig for information more than give me more information. To be fair, but good nevertheless.
Okay, so my one was kind of similar, but because I've been using it for a hell of a lot, and putting a lot of data into it, it came up with quite a different thing. I actually got criticized on something, right? Maybe not a criticism, but more of a kick up the backside, in order letting me saying that I should be doing something a little bit more than what I'm doing now. And it was actually saying you've got same thing, you're having a massive influence, but you need to accelerate that more because you're not fulfilling your potential unless you do this. And if you continue to accelerate in that way, you will actually succeed in a lot of things you're trying to do. Right. So the most important thing is you all came up to one little thing. You all said they got to a point where it got really generic, right? So that tells you something. In fact, that it only can give you information on the data which has been pumped into it, right?
Absolutely, yes.
100%.
But this is the thing about AI. What you've got to understand is like it is just a massive, great big brain, a baby brain full of just trillions and trillions and trillions of bits of information. But that information has been fed into it. So that's the only reason why that when you get these answers, these are the answers that you'll get. It'll just scrape all this information up, and it will take things from what you fed and also look up profiles. So if you're on social media, whatever, it pulls all this stuff together, all this information, everything. So in the social media post I did, I said, be careful what you say and be careful what you put out there. Because this gives you a good idea that people can use your data, right? In the wrong way. But this also tells you what AI is doing. It's pulling. Just very quickly, there was something I saw the other day where there is a site where AI is asking humans, they're paying humans to do tasks which they can't do.
Really?
Yeah. So it's the reverse.
Yeah.
All right. So that looks kind of like, wow, see, they can't do anything. But what you've got to understand is the more and more it gets trained on human ability, the more powerful it gets.
Can I ask a bit of a silly question?
It's never silly. Well, coming from you, yeah, it is.
Generally.
Can we go past that? Why artificial intelligence? Artificial.
It's not real. It's not real, is it? It's artificial.
Well, can I just jump in here? I heard one of the guys that is he's been doing. I don't know whether you ever remember that artificial intelligence robot going around doing all the morning breakfast shows. She was faced as a woman, and they was having conversations. So he was a designer of that. English guy who was paid double his wages to go and work in America on certain topics, and then he was paid double again to go and work in China. Real kind of out there kind of character, and he was the one basically had something to do with the term artificial intelligence, and he said it's a really bad term that he doesn't even like himself. And the reason why he was saying that is, as you said, Anthony, a second ago, the thing is we can say, well, it's not real, but what he's now saying is it is real.
Well, yeah,
Intelligence
is the information's real, isn't it?
absolutely. So what he's saying is
yeah.
that it is artificial intelligence is a bad term that people have now cottoned onto. It's a bit like, without getting religious, it's a bit like certain religious figures. We know them as a certain name, but when you dig, we realize that their original name, their real name is something different. So it's a bit in that world, you know. But this guy was openly saying it's a really bad term, but it's one that everybody now knows universally. So we've kept with it.
Yeah, because the information that we've just been discussing, that is real, isn't it?
Yeah.
The profiles it made for Winston and Nikki and yourself. So why is it artificial then?
Well, you've got to think of it. It's not because I'm giving you information. I'm a real person, right?
Yeah.
So anything artificial is not real, is it?
You mean the source?
Yeah, it's not real.
Right.
Unless it's human.
Right. Okay.
All
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's a simple. I'm just giving it a layman.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to ask you now, based on all this information, what are your fears?
Around artificial intelligence?
Yeah, about the whole thing. What is your fears? And start off with you, Nick, again.
I'm going to be honest with you. Mine's a very selfish, insular one, which is that it will be easier for people to rip me off. When it comes to the world, when it comes to the worldwide thing, I'll be honest with you. I have no fear of this. I have no fear of artificial intelligence.
I don't need all that for that.
No, well, you support Arsenal. You've got enough going on. But if I'm honest with you, to make it easier for people to rip me off, I mean, I think they look in my bank account and think, oh, bless him, we'll put a couple of digits in. But...
a few quid, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll leave him a few quid.
Yeah.
But outside of that, though, when it comes to the world as a whole, I think we as humans are doing a good enough job of ballsing all this up. So I'm not worried about a computer getting involved. If anything, they might straighten some of this nonsense out.
Interesting.
That's kind of
you
it for
say
me.
that. Okay, right. I'll start with Winnie this time. What's your fears?
Gosh, man, fears. I'm like Nick, to be honest with you. I don't really give a shit, to be fair. Sorry for saying that, but
Well, I never
at the
said
end of the day, well, you didn't say that, Barry, but that's what you meant, basically.
Yeah, well, we knew that anyway.
Because there's nothing coming out of your bank account, so you're all right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mrs. has got it all.
Yeah.
You lot have had that.
Yeah.
No, but to be fair, it is what it is. And I don't feel that I can do anything with regards to trying to change things. You know, the powers that be, you know, who run the world dictate what happens with artificial intelligence at the end of the day, just like they do with nuclear bombs. So I don't have any say on what's going to happen with that. So I don't really worry about it. I think I'm in a space where I think to myself, well, what can I use? What can it be used for positively? And in terms of negative stuff, you know, I try to stay away from it as much as I possibly can. Because I used to have the thought to myself. I used to think to myself, well, if it knows this about me and knows that about me, then this is going to happen and that might happen. But I've kind of come out of that realm now. It's like whatever happens, it happens, isn't it? Just like it's like going to Brixton, you know what I mean? Whatever happens, you know what I mean? Or into the hood, that's whatever happens. That's just how it is. So that's the kind of mentality. So I don't even really think about it too much. But I suppose a lot of people do think about it and they would worry about it. And I think it could cause a lot of mental health, as we're talking about, you know, mental health as well. I think it can cause a lot of paranoia for people who are like overly conscious of, you know, what it knows about them if if they're really kind of worried about that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's not my bag to really be worried about. I'm the kind of person to just get on, like whatever.
Okay, right. Mr.
Steve.
Me. Come on, Steve.
I think de-skilling. So me, like I'm trying not to be overly reliant upon it. I want to, the brain cells that I have, I want to try and keep one. I'm leaving myself open. No, I'm not. But the brain cells that I have, I want to try and retain those. So I don't want to become overly reliant on these platforms. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't want to de-skill myself. And also authenticity. Do you know what I mean? Checks and balances. Really, I still think we still need to do. Yeah, you put it in and it comes up with whatever. How do I know? We need to do our own checks and balances. Is this authentic? Don't know. But I think that aside, I think there is a lot of benefit to it. And even with some of the things I'm doing personally, it has kind of sharpened, made things a lot more streamlined, quicker, more efficient. So I think there are plenty of pros to it, but my concern is this personally de-skilling. Really, I don't want to de-skill. I want to still be able to be creative by myself without having to rely on these platforms to do it for me.
So with that in mind, how do you think we can sort of help young people today to be a little bit more optimistic? See, I threw you a curveball because I remember one of the podcasts before. Nick, you threw me a curveball. I was like, how am I going to think of this? I'm thinking this is something. Remember, we're all surrounded by young people. They're going to ask you maybe this question one day. How will you answer that question? Even based on your basic knowledge. What would you say to a young person now?
For me, it's still, see, this
Yeah,
is,
Nick.
For me, I'm going to be honest with you, the main thing that jumps out to me, and I was thinking, does this fit? And yeah, it does. We're talking about artificial intelligence, right? So we're talking about computer systems taking over, etc., and running things. And as you said last week, Mike, taking us down this kind of, this alleyway, if you like, and cutting off certain exits, so we have to follow it down. So for me, I go back to basics, which is any young person, and I'm going to be honest with you, I think a bag of older people miss this trick as well, which is don't let this or anything else tell you what to think. Learn how to think. And that's the massive difference. So learn how to use this, not what information needs to go in, etc., etc. We spoke last week, and I've been looking at it quite heavily. I spoke to Winston the other day, and Michael actually, about this comparison game.
Yeah.
So that comes into play where it comes to social media and all those kind of things. But my bit, if I had to give one piece of advice, which I don't like giving advice, but if I had to give one, please, you beautiful humans out there, learn how to think. None of this nonsense, because it's too, the minute people are telling you what to think, it's too tribal. It's separating. And that's all, it's too divisive. Learn how to think. That would be it.
I was actually waiting for one of you guys to come out with that. Sometimes I actually wonder. You know, sometimes Nick, you glitch a little bit. Are you AI? Anyway,
Probably.
So I'm going to ask you, Willie, this time. What would you tell a young person?
I think the fundamental principles of life are exactly the same as it was before. It doesn't really matter if you got AI involved or you got technology involved. Who are you as a human being, and what do you stand for? Is really important. And I think young people are, I mean, you was talking about it today about it's on the news. Young people committing suicide and being depressed and stuff like that because of their interaction with social media. The comparison thing that Nick was talking about and what we've all been kind of like discussing. These are the dangers. And as an uncle to nephews and nieces, and potential grandfather in the future. We've got to pull them to one side and have those conversations, those real conversations, in whatever way you feel you need to do that. But I don't think things have really changed fundamentally. I still think we are the same people. We have the same principles, whether it was 1900 to where we are in the 2000s. I still think we have the same wants as a man. You want to provide for your family. You want to be a decent individual. Most people, and these things come with core qualities, and it's for us to kind of like identify those qualities that the young people need that are around us or within our community, and try and support them and help them as best as we possibly can. But yeah, no, I don't really think anything will. I just think things are going to get worse because of the newness of artificial intelligence and the newness of technology. We don't know the outcome. Well, somebody might know the outcome, but I don't know. Maybe we need to ask our artificial intelligence what's the outcome of them being around. Because at the end of what I see at this present moment is everything is a test, isn't it? What's the impact, in 30 years on the younger generation? Right now, we can see some really negative stuff, but there was also some beautiful stuff as well. I mean, people are using AI to, build machines to, drive vehicles with water. It's great. But fundamentally, we as human beings have to be the same as what we was 100 years ago in terms of the core principles and values that we have in society. That's the way I see it, really.
Okay, Steve.
Well, I still think there's opportunity, to be honest. I mean, we're always evolving. Things are always changing. And for me, if I'm a young person, I think to myself, do you know what? How can I create a possibility for myself within this space, within using this technology? I think it's actually quite exciting, actually, for a young person. We're seeing a lot of young people, not even going down the uni route now. They're becoming entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of them will never, ever work a 9 to 5 like what we've done. Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't think of anything worse. Do you know what I mean? So they're using all this new technology. They're using AI to kind of live this laptop lifestyle. You know what I mean? How great is that? So I think, to be honest, do you know what I mean? I think, I'm going to go with the positives. I think there's opportunity there. I think if I was a young person, I'd be like, how am I going to disrupt this now? How am I going to use AI or technology to disrupt this and find a space for myself? Because there's never a better time to become an entrepreneur. Particularly when you're young, you've got no baggage. You might not no kids. You're living at home, but go for it.
True.
I agree with you. The only other side of it I'll say is we've all come from a background where we've worked with teams of some shape or form, right? And the beauty of being an entrepreneur is that you can actually have your business by yourself, right? Because I say, like, we're entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur. The only other side of that, the psychological side of it, is that you become almost isolated.
Yeah.
Because then you're no longer working with people. You're working maybe with an individual. So that connection, that sort of, going back to the word that you used, tribe, right? But I wouldn't say tribe, but that whole interconnectivity that you have with a group of other individuals, maybe from different backgrounds, different races, all kinds of things, that now becomes less and less, you're getting less and less involved with that. So that also could be another thing that could almost change the whole mentality. Obviously, this is your world, Nick, but I could see that could change the way a lot of young people connect with other people if they become very isolated, which I don't think is a good thing. Right? So I think it needs to be a balance in that. But I do agree with you. There has never been a better time for anybody to start their own business online. Absolutely. Yeah. There's never been an opportunity where you can't say, I can't learn. You can. Right?
Yeah.
You can. There's no excuses. Excuses. And when we were younger, in order for us to learn, we had to go to a library.
Yeah.
That's what we had to do. Go to a library. Okay? look up white papers, whatever. Now, I just do that. I
Create your business plan within 2 point whatever seconds.
I have an
Yeah.
iPad. I
Yeah.
have an iPad. I can run my business on my phone
Yeah.
quite easily, no problem. Right?
Yeah.
So those are the.
I found this on the web for I have an iPad. I can run my phone.
What was
Now,
that?
It's like a
set
setup.
Siri up. I set Siri up. See what happens there?
You couldn't make it out, could you? Really?
Oh, you couldn't.
Couldn't make that up, could you? Right? So that goes to show you what technology is like. It's Siri actually listens to you and answers a question and asks me a question without me even answering. So it's
Is that what that just did? Was that responding
Yes.
to something?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So with that said, I'm going to leave on a positive note. I want to be positive. Exactly the same thing what you said, Winnie. The positive sides of this are enormous. I was watching something the other day where they're actually having technology to help blind people to wear these smart glasses. So they put the smart glasses on
How good is that?
and literally
Yeah.
reads what's going in front of them. So it actually tells the person who's blind, you're now walking down the road. To the left-hand side, there's a shop.
Crazy.
So that you're
That's
actually
crazy.
getting close to just reduce your steps because you're getting close to a road where the curb. To the right-hand side, just be careful. There's oncoming traffic. So with these smart glasses on, it tells a blind person what to do. Now that to me is amazing.
That's amazing.
That to me is now showing AI can actually help people. So with those kind of things, guys, what do you think the positive? Because I think Nick, your answer was really, really great, and that's the fundamental. Just think for yourself. Learn to think for yourself. Always keep that for yourself. Always have that as a core, right? So with that in mind, then, and then even the positive things. You tell me, do you think the future is bright?
Yes, I think the
Yes.
future is very, very bright. And just on a real silly one, because I'm aware of time, but just on a silly one, it's really interesting that for me at the moment, the two things that have come up as entertainment that I've been watching recently, back in the day, like doing the breakdancing and the popping and stuff like that, the two things that have come up have both been humans mimicking technology. So remember with the old body popping and breakdancing, so there's a load of stuff come up with people pretending to be robots, the robot dance, and the other one is a load of people beatboxing. Now, if artificial intelligence comes up with a beat, no one ain't going to be impressed with that no more. But a human being doing that holds weight. And I just found it so interesting that these two huge bits of entertainment that I'm watching recently are human beings mimicking technology. And it's just, I don't know, I just got a thrill out. I mean, it takes me back watching that kind of stuff anyway, but it's interesting that it's just come back through. But I think the future is very bright if we can talk to the young people and just let them know, you beautiful beings, remember who you are and learn to think for self. You know, that's kind of my full stop part, really.
Yeah, that's a great thought. Steve, do you want to conclude on your last statements on this as well?
No, I mean, it's, as I said, I think it's a good time to be young right now. I think there's plenty of opportunities out there. Find your space. Find your passion, and you can, and the beauty of it now, you've got all this wonderful technology. If you embrace it in the right way, that can make your dreams come true. To be honest, do you know what I mean? And just make it more quicker, more efficient, and professional.
Good.
Yeah.
Winnie.
I think it really just depends on what we are instilling into our youth in terms of their values and morals. I mean, I'll go back to it. Because if we are instilling negative stuff, or when I say we, I mean society in general, if they're rotten at their core, and what they're going to bring to fruition, what's that tree going to what sort of fruits are they going to have? So for me, like everybody's saying, I know that there's some great stuff. I was in hospital recently, and I've seen, firsthand that having an operation where the camera's in my heart. So that's down to technology, but I'm wary of who we are becoming as a culture as a result of it, and are we becoming self-obsessed? Like the Andrew Tates of the world to a certain degree. I'm not saying that he's a bad person or he's a good person, but what does that kind of influence? How is it? How are we being influenced? And then what's the knock-on effect? And they're talking about it on the news today with regards to kids doing crazy stuff, committing suicide and stuff, and the mental health issues. Now, has that always been the way? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but I think there's positives and there's negatives, man. There's going to be positive negatives with regards to how things pan out. It's just which one weighs out the most, and what effects that has on our human family in the long run. Those questions are deep questions for me, and I don't know the answers, but I've seen some amazing stuff coming from technology, and I've also seen some crazy shit. So we've got to be careful with the kids, man. I don't want the children the young people. There's a passion of mine, and I know that you guys share the same passion. So I'm very wary of what I can do and how I can, add value to our community by using AI if need be. If I need to, brush up on my technological skills to improve so that I can have that communication with young people still. I think that's very important. That I need to kind of be, savvy with regards to what's actually going on. But yeah, there's positives and negatives. We'll see what happens in the future. Que sera, que sera.
Okay then, guys. So from the three wise men, thank you for your contributions on that. It's a bit of a tricky subject.
Is that a low blow?
kind of sounded like
Yes,
it.
it's from Anthony. Of course, it's a low blow.
Anyway, you can take that anywhere you want. I was saying it as a compliment, but as everything, as usual, nothing is ever looked at in the right way with any of us. So I'm just saying, from a subject which I'm very much involved with, I have to say you all brought up some very valid points, very, very interesting points. And I think the fact that we are human and the fact that we have to remember we are human and we have emotions and we have all these wonderful qualities which AI doesn't have. It can replicate, it can mimic, but the actual spiritual side of a human being, it can't have, right? So I think we've got to look at it at that point. That's what I would say, the positive sides, which keeps us apart. But guys, I have to say thank you very much for this subject. Thank you for your contributions.
Thank you, guys.
And like I said, we kept it really good at the end. None of it's silliness as we normally end up doing. But yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, I can't wait till we get our own studio and we can, work from there, because my lighting issues that I'm having at the present moment are unreal.
That's rubbish, mate. Seriously.
No, it's terrible.
Really bad.
I was going to say that.
Anthony, that was as subtle as a sledgehammer. Oh, wow. That's rubbish, mate.
That's human. See, the ChatGPT never got an authentic answer. This is the difference. A human will tell you that was rubbish.
It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Peace and love, beautiful people.
Peace
Take
and love.
care, Jen.
Take care.
See you soon.
Bye.